Curiouser and curiouser, cried Alice, and so might we, staring into the cosmos through a telescope that seems to reflect our own confusion. Astronomers have announced the discovery of a rare double-ringed odd radio circle, or ORC, billions of light years away. The colossal formation, visible only in radio frequencies, appears as two concentric rings surrounding a distant galaxy. The headlines, predictably, held another, quote, cosmic mystery. CNN called it a new class of object, and researchers described it as a, quote, shockwave in the intergalactic medium. Every few months, mainstream astronomy stumbles upon yet another plasma phenomena it cannot explain, and so baptizes it with a new label. For those familiar with plasma physics, however, these discoveries are not so much mysterious as repetitive. They are the universe whispering the same story, one that astrophysics refuses to hear. It sounds almost mythical. Vast radio halos shimmering around a galactic core, rippling like smoke rings through the void. And in a sense, mythology is exactly where mainstream science has ended up. From dark matter to wormholes, the vocabulary of modern cosmology could be mistaken for a Tolkien glossary. This latest double ring is simply another addition to the pantheon, a cosmic trick performed by forces that theorists insist are gravitational or magnetic, but never electrical. According to the article, the radio rings may result from ancient outbursts driven by a supermassive black hole. Conveniently, the black hole remains both the cause and the excuse for every effect. But this discovery is different. Two perfect concentric rings, like ripples frozen in time. To the electric universe community, that symmetry immediately suggests a plasma discharge event, a double layer collapsing, releasing energy in concentric circles. In other words, not an accident of gravity, but the signature of current flow. To the public, this all sounds thrilling, a mixture of Star Trek and Doctor Who. To physicists, it's another band-aid on an ever-expanding model that no longer holds. The CNN article claims these rings may be, quote, jets channeled by powerful magnetic fields. Yet, a magnetic field cannot channel anything without an electric current driving it. Magnetism does not exist in isolation. The two are forever entwined, as Maxwell showed in the 19th century. To speak of magnetized plasma without mentioning electricity is like describing thunder without lightning, a linguistic illusion masking physical reality. The problem is not that astronomers observe wrongly, but that they interpret through the wrong lens, one that filters out charge, current, and plasma dynamics. The result is what passes for science fiction dressed in scientific jargon. Here's a passage from CNN on the odd radio circle. Quote, as debris spirals more rapidly, it becomes superheated. The powerful magnetic fields around black holes help channel these energetic superheated particles away from black holes in jets that nearly reach the speed of light. End quote. This is what Orwell might have called doublethink. Every phrase conceals its own contradiction. If nothing can escape a black hole, how do these superheated particles race outward at nearly light speed? If powerful magnetic fields are involved, where is the mention of the electric currents that produce them? We are asked to believe in magnetism without electricity. A neat trick if one could find it anywhere outside the pages of a cosmology textbook. Astrophysicists would say that it's all there implicitly in the equations, but as mathematician Stephen Crowther has pointed out, those equations themselves rest on dubious assumptions. Crowther has spent years challenging the internal contradictions of black hole mathematics, exposing that even within general relativity, the solutions commonly cited are inconsistent. His work, though often ignored, strikes at the root of the problem, a physics that privileges elegant geometry over physical reality. Electromagnetism, notoriously difficult to model mathematically at cosmic scales, is treated as a nuisance rather than a key. The result is an academic inertia so dense that even light or insight can barely escape it. Nothing was supposed to escape a black hole, not matter, not light, not even information. Yet the universe overflows with jets of plasma erupting from the hearts of galaxies supposedly ruled by these inescapable abysses. To explain this, we are told of accretion disks just outside the event horizon, which somehow manage to eject plasma at nearly the speed of light. Matter falls inward and outward simultaneously. It's an elegant paradox, though one that would make even Lewis Carroll raise an eyebrow. The electric universe model dispenses with the paradox. The black hole is not a black hole at all, but a plasma focus, a region where electric currents converge, pinch, and occasionally discharge. The jets we observe are not gravitational paradoxes, but electrical events, immense cosmic lightning bolts carrying current along Birkeland filaments that span interstellar space. Quote, "My experimental work in plasma physics for the last 36 years has shown that under many different circumstances, plasmas containing non-relativistic or relativistic electrons can spontaneously organize themselves into force-free, minimum free energy vortex filaments of a Beltrami morphology." End quote. As Winston Bostick demonstrated in the laboratory, plasmas naturally organize into pinched filaments and double layers. These plasmoids form and discharge in precisely the ways now seen in galactic cores. What astronomers call jets are, in essence, electrical arcs on a cosmic scale. The same principles Bostick observed in the lab now appear to be written across the sky itself in structures like the odd radio circle. In the mid-20th century, plasma pioneers like Bostick, Alfvén and Peratt reproduced in miniature what the universe displays in grandeur. Using just a few thousand volts, they generated plasma pinches, jets and magnetic lobes that mirrored the forms of galaxies and nebulae. Anthony Peratt's computer simulations, informed by laboratory results, produced spiral galaxies indistinguishable from observed ones, complete with rotational dynamics that required no dark matter. Quote, "The cosmical plasma physics of today is far less developed than the laboratory plasma physics of 30 years ago. Cosmologists are inventing their own plasma physics, and they invent it badly." End quote. Hannes Alfvén. In other words, the electric sky is not speculation, but experiment. We have already seen it work, scaled down in glass chambers. The reluctance to scale it up is not scientific, it's psychological. The equations of electromagnetism are messy, non-linear, and less easily tamed than the pure abstractions of relativity. Gravity can be reduced to simple curvature. Electricity refuses such obedience. It sparks, arcs, and self-organizes. It behaves like life. The pattern has become predictable. First comes the shock, quote, "astronomers baffled." Then comes the adjustment, quote, "a new type of structure." Finally, the absorption, quote, "magnetic fields may explain it." And so the story continues, each new discovery quietly folded into a theory that grows ever more baroque. The equations stretch, the metaphors multiply, but the underlying assumption that gravity reigns supreme remains untouched. Quote, "In order to understand the phenomena in a certain plasma region, it is necessary to map not only the magnetic but also the electric field and the electric currents. Space is filled with a network of currents which transfer energy and momentum over large or very large distances." End quote. Hannes Alfvén. As Alfvén warned, cosmologists treat magnetism as an effect, not a cause. To speak of magnetic fields without acknowledging the currents that sustain them is to sever cause from effect, to mistake the echo for the shout. This linguistic contortion is not mere accident, it's cultural habit. The same scientific establishment that prides itself on precision has mastered the art of strategic vagueness. Magnetized plasma, powerful fields, high-energy particles, and frozen-in magnetic fields. All true, but all incomplete. The missing word is electricity, and its omission is as deliberate as it is revealing. To name it would be to admit that the cosmos is not a cold clockwork of gravity, but a living network of currents and discharges. It would mean that the sun, the stars, and the galaxies are connected by the same fundamental forces we can observe and reproduce here on Earth. And that, for many, is too much reality for comfort. In the electric universe model, no invisible dark components are required. Dark matter, of course, is arbitrarily distributed wherever it's needed to make gravitational forces match observed behaviour. The universe, however, is held together not by mystery, but by measurable forces. Electric currents, Birkeland currents, thread through space like veins of energy, linking worlds and stars into an intergalactic circuit. Where those filaments pinch, plasma glows, matter forms, and energy is released. The double rings of the newly discovered ORC may not be shock waves from an ancient explosion, but the footprints of a cosmic discharge. Concentric shells of plasma radiating from a focus of electrical stress. In other words, we are looking not at the wreckage of an old universe, but at the circuitry of the living one. Each new discovery should clarify the cosmos, yet somehow the explanations grow stranger. Magnetized plasmas without currents, black holes that devour and emit simultaneously, and an odd radio circle that, fittingly, brings us full circle, back to the unanswered questions that mainstream science prefers not to ask. How can physicists deny electricity in a universe that is, by every measure, almost entirely plasma? Modern cosmology has become the church it once mocked, full of dogma, ritual, and invisible forces. The difference is that its miracles now come with equations. Jim Morrison once sang, "People are strange when you're a stranger." So it is with electricity in space. The most familiar force in the universe has become the most estranged. It lights our homes, powers our cities, and crackles in every storm. Yet, when it flashes across the heavens, science looks the other way. Perhaps the real heresy today is simplicity, to suggest that what we see is what it is. Plasma dancing to the tune of electricity in space. Quote, "The same processes observed in the laboratory can be scaled up to explain the shapes and behaviours of galaxies and nebulae. The universe is not mysterious, it is the largest plasma experiment of all." End quote, Anthony Peratt. Until we find the courage to speak plainly, to call electricity by its name, the headlines will continue to read, "Curiouser and curiouser."